and good morning again. Hello, welcome to another episode of Sailing Melody. And last week we finished all of the welding in the anchor chain locker. So the next thing on the list, which you'll see up here, is the bowsprit and anchor roller assembly, which I'm kind of treating as one. Let me show you what we've already got. So this here is our bowsprit tube, which is a great big hefty piece of steel tubing that goes inside the old one. It's something like 6.7 wall thickness, I think. It's crazy thick, and I've already welded on the chain plate for the for the head sail and for the bobstay on the bottom there. So I'll put that down so it doesn't clatter. So that, if you like, is the strong bit. That's the bit that holds the mast up at the front and provides a lot of strength. What needs to go on top of that is the anchor roller, like so. So we've got, you can see this paint mark, that's where I was painting the other day, and it's handy because it shows me just how far in this tube goes. If I need to slide this about a bit, I can actually adjust it slightly. Now you'll notice there's two anchor rollers on here, a primary and a secondary. We are only going to have one primary anchor, which is our Mantis M2. We're going to have a secondary auxiliary anchor as a standby, just in case we ever lose our anchor. And on this side I'm going to make a bracket so that we can have a carbon fibre or an aluminium pole out for our spinnaker. So, but what I've got to do first is make a mounting system to mount this anchor roller onto the bowsprit. On top of all of that then will go all of this stuff that I made, which is the pretty bit, if you like, the platform. So, clatter. So as far as I can see it, the way it is in my head, the whole assembly consists of three components: the strong bit, the mechanical bit, and the pretty bit. And the pretty bit is the cosmetic stuff that is just a pretty platform to stand on, but it's strong enough to hold your weight. Right, first thing, let's make some mountings to fit that onto that. So if you're wondering what I've just been making, basically the way it's going to work is this. This is a piece of the same tube that I cut off. These holes line up with the holes in the anchor platform, the anchor chain platform, and I've cut these out with the plasma cutter to fit the tube so that they will be welded on. So I'm going to make this arrangement, 1, 2, like so, all welded together, and it will basically go like this. This will all be welded to the bowsprit, but because these holes line up, I can then bolt the platform down, and there's room for me to either drill and tap this, which I probably will do, or put nuts on the back and bolt it through. So I'm going to make a bunch of these. I've got to weld this up now. There you go, there's my bracket that's going to go over the bowsprit tube, and that will be welded to it, and then I can bolt everything else to that, and I'm going to make a series of those. I've got this little digital level, which is like a spirit level, but it gives you really, really precise degrees. So I'm going to set the upper chain plate to vertical, and then I'm going to put this to exactly 90 degrees to it, instead of trying to do it by eye. So I've got it to within 0.1 of a degree, perfect, but it's all a bit of a moot point because once the sails are up and the wind's in the sails, even a tube as thick wall as this, it's going to flex a little bit anyway, and you're never going to visually notice 0.1 of a degree by eye anyway, so I'm just being silly. And I bet putting the clamp on has just moved it. Before I fully weld these up, I'm just going to test fit the whole thing so that if I've made a colossal cock up, I haven't fully welded those brackets in place. Fine, I don't need to put all the screws in because I know they line up. I just wanted to make sure that that was okay. And you can see I'm now going to have to build the rest of the platform around that to kind of look pretty and have something to stand on. Right, now let's take the whole lot down and weld it all up. Okay, so we've now got the strong bit, which is the pipe, and we've got the mechanical bit, which is our anchor roller. Now, you'll remember I actually made a bowsprit platform for this, and I can modify that to fit this system, and I probably will do that, but perhaps not till next week, because I've got to get some more tube to modify it. But what's more important for getting this bit finished is capping the end of the tube and painting all of the tubular bit in epoxy so that it can go on the boat. And bear in mind, the platform is cosmetic really. It's nice to have, and you can stand on it, and it looks pretty, and it sort of helps you get to your anchor. But in terms of getting the boat in the water and sailing it, with the bowsprit platform, with the bowsprit tube and the anchor roller, those are the two essential components. The next thing I'm going to do then is cap the end of that tube and get this whole assembly, not that bit obviously, but get this whole assembly all painted up. Chucking it down with rain now. I'm going to show you the bowsprit because I painted it and I've put it in place and it looks really, really cool. Let me show you from upstairs. Hang on, move the dead cat. There we are from upstairs. That's what it looks like. So we've got our anchor roller on the starboard side coming onto the gypsy straight into the hawser, and the anchor roller for the secondary coming onto that windlass. I'll show you from below as well. It looks really cool actually. I'm really pleased with the way it's come out. There you go, look at this. How cool does that look compared to the original? I mean, not only is it a good repair, I'm really pleased with the repair. I actually think it's better, stronger, more serviceable. It's just a better design than the original one as well. We've kept the features, we've kept this stainless steel chain going down to the bobstay. So the only thing now to add is that platform, and like I say, functionally that's fine. Anyway, visitor is about to arrive, I think. But first, cup of tea. Paul's a digger driver, but he's a general all-round engineer, mechanic kind of person.
Yeah, kind of. I was brought up with my grandparents, and my granddad was a mechanic.
Right.
And if he could fit anything into anything, he would.
Right.
Subsequently, that kind of rubbed off on me.
Right.
Being in the garage and being mucky and...
yeah. Fixing things and fixing...
Yeah.
And Paul lives on a boat. He's another liverboard. So...
if you can call it living. I exist upon a vessel. Within
he's not just some homeless guy that's offered some help. Yeah. What's the boat, Paul?
It's an Aquastar 33 aft cabin,
right.
Built in Guernsey. Yeah, I decided that houses were rubbish.
Well, that's exactly the decision we've made. Can't wait to move. So what we're going to do today, Paul's going to help me with the engine side of things. You'll remember the list of jobs that we've trimmed down. We've still got the boards, by the way, for the wall. They are going back up. I've just took
it down so I didn't get scared.
Well, I took it down because it was just lets more light in. But as you know, Nigel is helping with the welding side of things and the fabricating. Paul's come down to help me with engine plumbing, wiring type stuff.
If it moves, fix it.
Yeah, so let's first of all, we'll get the engine exposed and have a look at what's what. It's a Ford Mermaid.
It's a tractor engine.
It is, but it's the Ford Lehman 2700.
It's a Fortune Major tractor engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Mermaid division of Ford marinized them, and they did several versions of the Mermaid, and this is the Mermaid Melody.
Doesn't look too bad actually.
No.
On initial inspection.
What we're doing currently is we're putting the engine back in a state where we can literally just get it to turn over and start. So as you remember last year, Chris and I had the engine running and it works beautifully. But we're just deciphering all the wiring and figuring out exactly what wire is what. So we're pulling a wire and pushing a wire and testing a wire and seeing what goes where.
Right.
So we've got that one,
yeah, which is
a negative, and it's got some other stuff going to it as well. Right, so this is our battery bay, and what we've got is domestic on this side and starter batteries on that side, and we've got a whole load of old stuff which was to do with the old charging system before the days of split charge relays, and this boat had got a wind generator on it. So some of this will be to do with the wind generator. Some of it will be to do with the very old school split charge relay thing that doesn't exist anymore. And what we need to do is basically pull all of this out, figure out the continuity of everything and label everything. Or at least
nothing works, Andy. Basically what I'm doing is I'm using one of these, a power probe. Some people like them, some people hate them, because you can do a lot of damage if you don't know what you're doing. If you you can give live or an earth on that switch there, so it's positive and negative, and it'll give you, this particular one will give you a readout as well. It's got a trip on it which you reset, so if you do short anything out, it will give you some sort of protection. So what we do, connect it to the battery, so positive and negative, and you'll get a little beep. There you go, that's live now, so you've got a handy little torch on it as well, which you can turn the buzzer on or off, and pushing forward gives you a live, red light, positive live, and we can see the battery's running at 13.1 volts at the moment, so the battery's very good. And then the other way will give you a negative, to the probe. So what I'm doing at the moment is just checking the voltage from this unit, which we believe is a 12 to 24 volt voltage lifter, almost like an inverter if you like, but it lifts it to 24 volt because I think the Erbespatcher, which Andy's quite keen to get working, is a 24 volt unit, whereby all the rest of the electronics and electrics are 12 volt. Alternators that you've got, they're not typical alternators. Like I said, they're old school alternators. What you might do, you might undertake to find another alternator. Currently this alternator is doing that. I'll try to find it.
Right, so although to you this may look exactly the same like we've done nothing, we have so far, or Paul has, removed the alternator. We've taken it to the alternator repair shop in Galen, who have tested it and confirmed it is kaput. So we've ordered a new alternator because it's got to be one with an isolated return. Sweet.
And the bracket was broken.
And the bracket had sheared off.
So, I don't know if you can see that. I'll point at it, that's the alternator bracket, that's the rear part, and the front piece was actually sheared off. So the new alternator we're getting is just mounted on the front, so we're going to have to fabricate a new mount for that.
Right, so in the meantime we're disassembling all of the cooling system, the heat exchanger.
There is heat exchanger.
There's the heat exchanger.
Bad news on the water pump, Andy.
Is it? There's a bit of end play in it, isn't it?
Well, the heat exchanger's off. I'd be inclined to change it. It's not going to be an hugely expensive part on one of these engines.
No, probably not.
I've got to say one other thing on a personal note, Andy.
Yeah?
Jack is a credit to you.
Oh,
he really is.
Good.
Thank
you.
He's just, it's so lovely to see a nice kid, you know. My boys, Jack and Joe, they were brought up, you know, they weren't, you know.
Yeah.
They have social skills, you know.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to see another kid with social skills.
Well, he's certainly got that.
Have we got bucket?
Got bucket?
Got bucket.
Yeah, hang on.
Look at that. This is possibly the best job we've done so far. This is a lifesaver. This is.
That's just before we get the bucket. That is the state of the
heat exchanger.
What is
Yeah, this is kind of an essential job.
It is.
Could be an idea. It's only a suggestion that I may be able to take this away with me.
Right. Okay.
And redo it.
Rebuild it and bring it back.
Yeah, because in my workshop I can sandblast it. I can, you know, get it proper nice. It needs to. Oh, hang on, it might have moved.
It looks like it looks like it's moved a bit.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got very far with this, Andy.
No, this is the contents of the heat exchanger.
It's pretty rank.
That is jellified antifreeze. This has never been done since the engine was new, is it?
Where's my teaspoon gone?
I'm digging it out with a spoon.
This is marine engineering at its finest. This is.
think what we would have had we gone out with this engine just running is we would have had an episode of Wildlings.
Yeah. The rocks are getting closer.
No, well, just my engine's overheating.
Yeah.
Let's take it to Preston and rebuild it.
Yeah.
But fortunately, we're not going to have to go to Preston. So Mark's dad, you're saved the task of us delivering our engine to you, because we're going to do it ourselves before we get ourselves in too much trouble.
Full of admiration for Mark's dad, by the way.
Full of admiration for Mark's dad and Mark.
Yeah. He is a legend, that guy.
He is. One heat exchanger is in bits.
We didn't want to show the process of getting that out because we'd have had so many comments, but it's out anyway.
Yes.
Hide the hammer and the bits of wood.
Yeah, the hammer and the bits of wood. Basically, the issue was that wasn't coming out of the heat exchanger housing very easily because of all the build-up of salt and crud, because this has never been apart since it was new. This is all fine. It's all going to go back together nicely. That lip there will probably clean up, but might need some repair. We'll assess that when we've cleaned it up. It is the next morning. Morning. And we're still stripping bits off the engine. The developments are, we're clearing the pilot house. The developments are, we're taking off all of the cooling system, or most of it. Paul is going to take the heat exchanger home and rebuild it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. And Paul's going to get the engine sorted for us over the next few weeks. So at the end of this episode, you're going to see some additional post-it notes, some Paul-related post-it notes.
Got my own post-it board.
Yeah. So today's job is to take off more bits of the engine. Watch this. Oh, you're supposed to say, "Hold my beer and watch this." Apparently, hold my beer.
We don't drink on this boat.
Hold my water.
Hold this. Hold my beer and watch this. We've removed a load of bits off the engine.
Water pump
And stuff. I say we, Paul. And since then, what we've been doing is figuring out the plumbing system, because we've got quite a complicated plumbing system on this, because we've got
quite a brilliant, complicated system.
It is. Explain to our lovely viewers, Paul, why it's so brilliant and why it's so complicated.
Right, well, what you've got is you've got two forms of water heating. You've got the residual heat from the engine, which runs through a coil in the tank, which heats the water, but with that also you've got an Erbispacher diesel heater, and that also heats the water in the tank through a coil system. So that's a closed loop system. The engine, the Erbispacher, and the heating system, i.e. the radiators in effect, they're actual heater units, but the radiators that give the warm air to the saloon and the whole of the interior of the boat, is a closed loop system. And then you have an open system, which is your washing up water, hot water, shower heads,
drinking water if you want to drink out
stuff that comes in and goes out.
Yeah.
So the beauty of the double closed loop system with the Erbispacher and the engine is that when the engine's not running, if you've got a cold morning, you can fire up the Erbispacher for half an hour and that will warm the engine, so you're not starting a cold engine, which is a brilliant system. We've got filters, all of these filters and things, I know Andy can show you, need replacing, but the actual system itself is very simple, and it's got different ways of locking off different sides of the system. So if your hot water system fails, you can shut this tap, and then you've got cold water, you've isolated the hot water side, and you can also isolate the cold water side. But with that open, everything is cold. With that closed, it isolates the hot side from the cold side.
Right. And at the minute, we've just put this piece of bread pipe in here.
Yeah, because the heads is disconnected. All the taps and the heads are disconnected. Those pipes run through there and up to the cold side there and the hot side here from the top of the tank. So we've just looped that to eliminate that. So we're leaving that open now so that Andy and Melissa have at least got some water in the taps. Do the taps, Andy?
Yeah, look, the taps now work. So we've now got running water in the taps. There's obviously a lot of air in the system, and some of that muck is from the old piping. So I'm going to be replacing a lot of the pipes. But
for all intents and purposes, the system's
it works fine, and we've managed to figure out how it all goes together and how to recommission it all, and that's going to be brilliant. And we're probably going to end up getting rid of the bladder tanks altogether, but at least I've got an idea in my head, thanks to Paul, of how it all works. What we've now discovered is that there was an immersion heater element in our immersion tank, but it's been taken out and discarded of and blanked off, but they left the 240 volt AC wire just dangling in the bilge.
Yeah, so we nearly had a fire.
Yeah, and it was actually sparking and smoking when we turned on the switch for the immersion. So that was quite interesting. That's now been made safe. Well, it hasn't actually yet, but it will be. We've also discovered that there is a dead short somewhere in the Eberspacher, isn't there?
There is.
So I've got to get in there. It's incredibly poor access, so I'm going to try and...
I don't fit.
I'm going to get in there and remove the Eberspacher so we can get it out, get it on the bench and make it work that way before refitting it.
So they're just working out what jobs need to be on the boards of doom, and unfortunately Paul has come and given us more jobs.
Well, yes, more jobs.
but we really
also,
appreciate it. It's good.
Paul's come and given us more jobs, but he's also written off some jobs.
Yeah.
So Paul is taking on a fairly significant number of jobs for us, which we've just discussed. And this isn't just me being a slave driver dishing out jobs to Paul. But job number one...
Only come for a cup of coffee.
Job number one is remove and inspect the exhaust manifold.
Shall I put it on my own column?
Paul has his own column now.
We've got his name on there.
Yeah. So that's remove and inspect the exhaust manifold. Job number two, pulleys and belts. So the alternator's going to need, you'll see. Job number three, change the oil in the injector pump. So that's an easy one. Job number four, top up the oil in the engine. Because we did fill the engine with oil last year, but then having run it, the level's gone down, settled, so we just need to... Next job, fill that engine with coolant, but there's a job to do before that. So these
we've done all the pipe work.
Yeah, these are in the wrong order actually. This is the big one. Rebuild the heat exchanger because the whole heat exchanger was all gummed up with old antifreeze and salt, and we've got it all apart as you see, and Paul's taking it home to do a complete rebuild on that. We're going to get a brand spanking new water pump, and Paul will fit the new water pump for us. And obviously I'll be here seeing how it's all done so that I can do it myself. And we've just ordered a brand new alternator, so new alternator, and that's where the pulleys and belts come in, because
new modified
alternator. The new alternator's got a single pulley, so we're going to have to modify it for a double pulley.
And the reason we've had to get a Volvo alternator is because it what do they call it? An isolated return.
Yeah,
for
it's
the earth.
That's right. So the old alternator that was on the boat was a great big beefy thing, but it hadn't even got a regulator on, so really old school. In preparation for Paul's work, Melissa and I, in the meantime, have got to clean and paint the whole bilge under the engine. We've done quite a lot of that anyway.
Meanwhile.
Oh yeah, we'll do that in meanwhile. We've got a meanwhile column. Clean and prepare the metal mating surfaces where the heat exchanger goes on. Clean and prepare the surface where the water pump goes on. We're going to degrease the whole engine, which is actually not in a bad state, but it needs a good going over.
It's minging.
Well, it's just covered in old oil.
Yeah,
it's like every old engine.
It's covered in newness, as I call it.
Yeah.
Newness.
So degrease and give it a good clean, and then of course repaint the outside with, or touch it up with.
Just to say that the reason that I like a nice clean and painted engine is if there are any leaks, you can spot them easily. If your engine's covered in dust and muck and grease, you can't see the leaks.
And the same with the bilge, isn't it?
And it's like anything, a nicely painted engine on the outside doesn't necessarily mean it's a good engine on the inside, but we already know the engine runs well. It's just so we're just making sure that having it look tidy on the outside just helps everything. Then the other two jobs that we need to do, we need to remove the Eberspacher diesel heater because that needs to be, we need to find out why it's not working, and
I don't fit in the hole.
In the position it's in, it's just completely inaccessible. So we need
Might be a good job for Jack.
Yeah, possibly. We'll remove that and get it on the bench, and then the last thing is remove and service the ball valve for the raw water intake. I might actually weld in a patch under that, but that's a fairly small job. So
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 new jobs.
8 new jobs, but a large number of those Paul's actually taking away and just going to do.
And there was some jobs that moved, wasn't there? Like some jobs got done over to the done list. Where did they go?
Stop the camera a minute.
Well, it's fine. You can edit it out.
Okay, so
what? Are they behind you? Are they those ones floating in the?
which
No.
ones? I don't know what you're talking about. Remind me.
Don't worry, it's fine.
Okay. I don't know what jobs you're talking about.
Oh, you fitted the.
Oh, we've got the water with the hot water, the water
water's
system,
working.
Yeah.
water and heat system, water filters, service the water.
Right, go on.
Service the calorifier.
Yeah.
Service the air dispatcher. So, the water filters we still need to do.
Yeah, we actually, just very quickly, we haven't shown this on camera.
This
Have
is my
we?
greatest achievement.
Look at this. This is amazing. Paul's made my day.
Real water.
I can wash up
We've now got a pumped water system. We've still got to change all the filters and change some of the pipes, but as we were saying earlier, we've now got water system working. So without further ado, we're going to go and say bye-bye to Paul, but before we say bye-bye to Paul, we've got to show you something outside. So this is what we were going to show you. This is where Paul's been staying while he's been working on our boat, and it looks just like an old series Land Rover, but it's really, really cool. Check this out. That is just awesome. It's so cool, I had to show you all. So that's that's Paul's humble abode. I shan't show you too much in there, but it's Paul's. And not only that, but if for those who are nerds and Land Rover aficionados, it's not got a series engine. It's got a 200 TDI in it, which is really nice.
It's been to Indonesia.
Been to Indonesia. And with that, we're going to say bye-bye. Thank you very, very much
Thanks
for watching. And we'll see you next time on Sailing Melody.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.